everyone, Hamer back with another Mission Impossible episode review. This time, I'm talking about Season 6, Episode 19, which is called Bag Woman. So this one starts out with a fellow named Luke Jenkins going into a bar and meeting a guy to arrange a money pickup. Another fellow makes a phone call about it and follows the pickup man out. Jenkins pulls a gun on the man, forcing him out of the car and shooting him off screen. Jim uses some spy speak to get access to the drawer at a gas station for instructions. The mission. The man who was killed was a federal agent. He was on the trail of a powerful, corrupt politician known as C6. The IMF must learn who C6 is and get evidence to put him out of business. In the apartment scene, we learn that C6 gets payoffs from Jenkins' boss, Harry Fife, and they maintain secrecy by not communicating directly and using different delivery people every time for C6's money. We see Dr. Bob Miller, who is a vet that takes care of Luke's German Shepherd Judd, and Casey will become the new bag woman, Jean Royce, who is a friend of Luke's. Jim arrests the real Jean Royce to take her out of the picture, and Casey takes her place with a tracking device so that Willie can follow her. Luke comes to Fife's house, yet again stately Wayne Manor, with an expensive bottle of liquor as a gift, as Barney prepares himself to become Luke. Fife shows Luke that he's prepared a special bag for the greedy C6. It's loaded with TNT with enough weight to simulate the money, which will explode when C6 opens the case with his key. Fife confirms with Luke that he's okay with his friend Jean being blown up as well, and Luke says, it doesn't bother me. Luke goes to see Dr. Miller, who says that he wants to keep Judd overnight for observation. And when Luke takes him to the back, the IMF knock him out, put him on ice, allowing Barney to take his place and putting Judd in a cage. Casey as Jean comes to Fife's place, and Barney as Luke returns alongside Fife's man Pete. She gets a bag cuffed to her arm, as well as her delivery instructions, and another car to drive, which Willie is able to follow. Fife feels like celebrating. He asks Barney as Luke to bring the bottle of whiskey that he was presented with earlier, forcing Barney to scramble because, of course, he doesn't know where it is. Fortunately, Pete says he'll go get it, and they make a toast to Jean Royce. Dr. Miller's assistant gets distracted by a phone call, failing to secure Judd's cage, and the dog escapes out the open window. Casey and Willie get to the specified parking lot as Fife and Pete praise Barney as Luke for handling things with Jean as coolly as he did, which of course Barney doesn't quite comprehend, but he plays along, learning from their discussion that they've set Casey up to die because of the bomb. Barney as Luke says he's going to head out to see if he can get Judd back, hoping to warn Jim, of course, but Judd arrives home and attacks him. In the fracas, Barney's mask comes loose and Fife moves him at gunpoint into his office. Barney's able to smack the gun out of Fife's hand, jumps out the window, but Pete shoots him in the temple and corners him. Barney's able to play dead for a moment and smacks Pete's head into a metal pole, knocking him out so that he can get away. And he does, moving unsteadily through the streets and finding a doctor's office where he enters and collapses, giving the doctor a number to call to reach Jim. Fortunately, the doctor does, and Jim rushes over. Fife and Pete get their bearings, and Fife figures that Casey must be a cop on C6's trail, but he's not worried since she's doomed anyway. Doesn't matter to him. Casey and Willie continue to wait in the parking lot until another car appears, with a man named Al seeing the cuffed briefcase and telling Casey come along in his car. Willie starts to follow, but as he pulls out onto the road, he gets hit by another car, and the tracking device is damaged. Casey is brought to the standard issue Season 6 office with the giveaway balcony door, and Al makes a phone call asking C6 to come to the office. Jim finds a doctor who sends Barney to the hospital, and of course Jim isn't around to get the call from Willie about the damaged tracking device. Barney is sedated at the hospital and can't really communicate with Jim at first, but fights through it and is able to tell Jim about the bomb. Jim calls Willie, gets the bad news about the tracking device, so he heads back to the room where Luke is still unconscious, smashing a beer bottle and reviving him. Luke wakes up and manages to use the glass shards to cut his bonds, breaking free and dashing away. Jim calls Fife as one of his syndicate superiors from Chicago, saying he has important information for him and he'll be right over to see him. Luke arrives, followed by Jim, who says that Casey as Jean is a cop. Fife says he's already figured that out. and he has everything under control to take care of the greedy and demanding C6. Jim says that the syndicate considers C6 worth every penny, and he needs to be taken care of. After Jim leaves, Five thinks about it and sends Luke out. Jim manages to get on Luke's trail. C6 arrives, and Casey takes a picture of him with a special ring. Jim follows Luke to a payphone, and using binoculars is able to see the number he dials. Luke warns Al about the bomb, which he explains to C6 as a mix-up, saying that the bomb was destined for someone else and that Casey's a cop. Casey denies it, of course, and C6 tells Al to take care of her. Fortunately, Willie arrives in the nick of time, being told by Jim where the phone number was traced to, and shoots Al. And Winston Wilding, a.k.a. C6, realizes it's game over for him. Barney recovers, and the IMF reunites after an interesting 360 ending shot. Mission accomplished. I'm going to give this episode a grade of C, kind of on the border of C and C minus, in my opinion. I made a note during my last go-round that this is kind of an average episode in almost every way. And of the 163 episodes, counting multiple part episodes as one, in my ranking, I had it at number 82, right in the middle, right in the center, at the median point. And I said to myself, that's exactly where this belongs. It's just average. It's not, right there. Very little good, and very little in terms of too much good or too much bad. Let me go over some of the good and the bad, though, because that's what I do. So, in terms of the good, this is a very unique episode, which is good. Everything that could go wrong does go wrong. This is a Murphy's Law episode. Most episodes that we've seen in Season 6, and it continues a trend that we saw starting in Season 5, where something has to go wrong. I mentioned back in Season 5 that that's not a bad thing. It can be a very, very good thing as long as it whatever the wild card is coherent with the story and it makes sense. Many of the ones in Season 6 have been sensible. Some of them have not. This is an episode where we just have wild cards on steroids. I've already given the recap. You can see all, and you've heard, and if you watch the episode, and you can hear from my recap all of the things that can go wrong. Everybody ends up with a problem, and absolutely nothing goes to plan. It's a neat change of pace. It's an okay story. Is it a fantastic story? No, it's not, but it's an okay story. And I do appreciate the uniqueness here. There's decent improv by Jim, who has to kind of, keep everything on track after everything else that's gone wrong. The teamwork is good. Even Willie, who's again, like in many episodes in Season 6, he's basically just on Casey guard duty. He still has an important part to the plot. And I'd say that the plot is average to only just a little bit above average. Okay? I do like the idea that they are experimenting with here. I pointed out in previous reviews that it's really boring when the IMF has everything go right all the time. Or when there's something, that there is a wild card in the episode, but it's something predictable or whatever. So I think it was a good try. Was it super duper? It certainly wasn't perfect. Was it super duper? No, I would say that it wasn't super duper, but it was good. It certainly wasn't a bad try. The episode works. Let's put it that way. I also really liked George Stanford Brown as Luke. He's fantastic in this. Great job by him as an actor. Robert Colbert as Harry Fife. He's okay. As an actor, he's fine. But I'll have some comments about the Harry Fife character. Actually, you know what? Might as well say them now. Harry Fife as a character I don't know. I didn't get the greatest vibe from him as a character, especially because of the dialogue. It's not just him; it's also his guy Pete. But there's just this whole strained and repeated dialogue, and it may not be quite as bad as I remembered. But the first couple of times I watched this episode, and it's been a while, but I just remember that, oh my God, here they are talking again and again and again about the same thing, right? Luke, wow, that was really great how you handled that thing that just happened right now. Oh, you mean that thing that happened half an hour ago, Mr. Pipe? Yeah, well, okay. Again, it kind of takes me back to the previous couple of episodes that we've had, where we've had this really strained dialogue amongst the bad guys. Here it seems more like kind of a time filler. In previous episodes, I mentioned that a lot of that is expository dialogue, telling us things that we don't know. Here, it serves a different purpose. First of all, it is kind of just kind of push the plot along and a little bit of padding, but also just to highlight the fact that, hey, some things have happened and the IMF don't know about those things, and that's going to complicate matters. While I applaud that for being realistic, the IMF should not have perfect knowledge. I often lament when they do. I feel like the writers kind of went over the top with that dialogue to kind of, as a plot device, I think this is what I want to say. They're using the dialogue as a plot device to highlight the confusion and the fact that everything is going wrong. We should be able to see for ourselves, and generally speaking we do, that everything is going wrong. We shouldn't need to be told that, oh, hey, there's something you don't know, like kind of being poked in the face with it. That's what I feel a little bit is going on with that dialogue. With regards to the main story, as I mentioned, the plot it just really, really hovers right around average. So there's not a whole lot of things that you would call and say, oh, wow, that was really good what they did there. There's not a lot of really kind of this is bad what they did there. However, I will point out that one flaw in this episode, which I really didn't like, there's a lack of a clear bad guy. Obviously, the mission is to determine the identity of this guy named C6. But again, C6 is almost an afterthought in this episode. He only appears in that final scene. And it kind of begs the question, okay, so why do we really even care about this guy? Obviously, from a story standpoint, yeah, that's who the IMF is after, and they have to go through these steps to get them. But in terms of a television episode and a television story, I've mentioned before in certain episodes, one that comes to mind is back in season 4, Orpheus, where the identity of the person that the IMF is looking for is given away too quickly, and that's not good. So, I understand you can't have it both ways. Either it's a secret and it's kind of held towards the end, or it's given away in the beginning. And it's very, very, very hard to kind of get that middle ground because, in the former case, in episodes like Orpheus, when the surprise is given away, that's a little bit unsatisfying. Here in this case, we have a guy who just kind of shows up and we're actually supposed to care about him. Like, why do we care about him? I don't have a reason for it. A good example of that would be in the season 5 episode, The Killer. That's a perfect example. Because in the end, the mission that the IMF is supposed to accomplish is to determine the identity of the killer's boss, Scorpio. Well, there's nothing in that episode, and I remember now specifically saying that that's what avoids me being able to give that episode a grade of S. Scorpio is found at the end, and that's it. Oh, Scorpio is Alfred Chambers. Oh, okay, fine. I mean, had his name been, David Morris, why it wouldn't have made any difference, right? Same thing here. Winston Wilding. Okay, that's nice. Next mission. And there's something really kind of unsatisfying about that. So that's why I'm very, very tempted to lean this episode more towards a C- than a C. But I think I'll stick with C because, again, the uniqueness of it does bring it up a notch. A couple of other notes that I just wanted to point out just to kind of put a bow on this. Interestingly, the phone number, I listened carefully, that Jim gives to Willie to, or maybe not to Willie, but to whoever he's calling in order to trace the number. The number that he's given is 213-749-1190. That's actually a Los Angeles phone number. Interestingly, earlier in the episode, Dr. Walter Manning, right, the guy who takes care of Barney, has the same phone number, 749-1190. And I guess we're supposed to believe that we're not in Los Angeles for that. I wonder, it's kind of weird with that, because normally in television shows, when they want to make a fake phone number, they usually use 55 something or other, because, those numbers are generally not given out. It's just strange to me why they would use kind of a regular number that would be in circulation, and actually turns out still is in circulation today. I checked. So that was kind of weird. I don't know why they reused the numbers in that way, and why they wouldn't have used like kind of a 55 number, which they normally do. Really, really strange. Possibly back in the day, when this episode was shot 50 years ago, that might have been a number that was associated with, Paramount Studios or whatever. So even if somebody called it, it wouldn't have caused a problem for anybody. I don't know. But I found that to be really, really strange. Also a note, the ending shot is a circling camera shot, a 360 shot, kind of, we see Casey, and then it kind of goes around and shows Jim and Barney and Willie, and then it kind of ends up back where it started, and then you see kind of the IMF together in kind of the semicircle. I remember seeing that shot in the end of My Friend, My Enemy, from back in season 5, and we're actually going to see it more in season 7, at least a few times, I think. I don't know why the camera people and the producers seem to kind of be favoring that shot all of a sudden. It's kind of neat as long as it's not overdone. Just thought I'd throw that out there. I found it kind of interesting. Anyway, I think that's about all I have to say for this one. This is a shorter review than most because, as I said, the episode being what it is, not as much to point out. There's not as many highs and lows as there might be in other episodes. And I think I'll leave it at that. Thank you guys as always for watching. It's always much appreciated. Please like this episode video review. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and please leave your comments. Thank you again, and I'll see you next time.